There are 50 million Hispanics currently living in the United States, making this country the second largest Hispanic country in the world, behind Mexico. According to Census Bureau projections, every year 1.2 million more will enter our borders. To put that into perspective, that means that in order to give each person a 5-minute presentation of the gospel, it would take 50 dedicated Hispanic soul winners working 40 hours a week to reach them in a year's time. That is just to reach the new ones coming to this country. But what about the millions that are already here? What are we as Bible-believing Christians doing to reach them? It is nearly impossible not to notice the bilingual country in which we now live. In the malls and grocery stores, and from entertainers to actors, and even to athletes, the Spanish influence is evident. The Spanish-speaking community has now become our largest minority group, and the uttermost parts of the world are now our Jerusalem. What are we, as Bible-believing Christians, doing to reach these people in our Jerusalem? No Christian can deny the enormous need to reach the Hispanic communities in the U.S., but how? No doubt every church can start its own Hispanic ministry, and some of the fortunate churches already have. But how many are able to do so? Where do you find the resources to start one? Where do you find qualified personnel for such a task? While it is the responsibility of every local Bible-believing congregation to carry out the Great Commission, how can we reach those of our own Jerusalem if we can't even communicate with them? How frustrating to see multitudes of Hispanics in a community with no way to reach them other than giving them a gospel tract in Spanish and hoping for the best. While God can certainly work through a tract, it is not the ideal. And if they did trust Christ as Savior, then what? Who will be their shepherd? Who will train them for the work of the ministry? In every city, whether small or great across this land, this need is not being met. I believe the time has come to face two very important and sobering facts regarding missions. The first is that we must come to the conclusion that we are now the mission field. The United States has become more of a melting pot of cultures than at any other time in the history of our country. Not since the days that Peter preached at Pentecost have we had so great an opportunity of sharing the gospel with the entire world without even leaving our country. In these end times, God is abundantly manifesting His grace by bringing the uttermost parts of the world to the most evangelized country in the world, the United States. Which leads us to the second fact about missions, that in order to take advantage of this great opportunity, we must commit our resources to reach our Hispanic communities. Both personnel and finances are going to be needed if we are going to reach our Jerusalem for Christ. While the need is great all over the world, we have a great and effectual door open to us. We must not wait to reach out to this community. The politicians have spent vast resources on spreading their self-described message of hope to the Hispanic population. How much more should we as Christians who have the true message of hope for the Spanish-speaking world invest in getting the gospel to these needy people? We cannot simply wait until they become fully assimilated into the American culture and then attempt to reach them. Though assimilation can eventually take place, it may be too late by then to reach them. Hispanics are not assimilating into the American culture as readily as the immigrants of years gone by. The immigration dynamic has changed from the past simply because of the vast numbers. There are subcultures forming within our borders where first and second generation immigrants work, shop, live, and eat with their own indigenous group without ever having to learn English. Even after decades of living in the U.S., many immigrants do not see the need to learn English. If we are going to reach them, it must be now. Who will reach them? We will. We are the Hurst family: Richard, Anna, Melissa, Alina, and David. After serving in our home church, the Fairfax Baptist Temple in Fairfax, Virginia, and after being approved to go through Baptist International Missions Incorporated in Chattanooga, Tennessee in 1991, we raised our needed support and left for the mission field. We served as independent Baptist church planting missionaries for several years in the city of Guayaquil, Ecuador. We immersed ourselves in the Hispanic culture, arriving in Costa Rica in 1994. 1 year later, we left for Ecuador, and in the 15 years that God gave us in that country, we started 2 churches. The first one we started is now totally indigenous, and the second one is self-supporting, but awaiting the final studies of their pastor in our Bible Institute. God has now burdened our hearts for the very needy mission field of the United States. We not only have a great desire to reach out to the Hispanic community, but God has also given us a deep burden to assist American churches in reaching their own Spanish-speaking areas. How are we going to help? Since we believe that God's program for today is the local church, we plan on starting Hispanic churches focusing primarily on Central and Southern Florida. We have targeted several cities on the west coast of Florida, as well as the greater Miami area, to start churches to reach the Spanish-speaking world. From these churches, our hope is that God would call men to the ministry of helping churches all over the U.S. establish Hispanic ministries to reach this growing population in their communities. God may even call some to go back to their country of origin to reach their own people where American missionaries may be unable to minister. We also desire to assist the American churches by providing assistance through Spanish tract distribution, audio-visual presentations, and aid in preparation of Spanish church services. We realize that this is a huge task, but we serve a huge God, and we are desirous to see God do a great work amongst the Hispanic population here in the U.S., but we need your help. The mission field is here, and we are prepared to work. Would you pray about partnering with us, the Hurst family, to reach our world and our America for Christ? Your help could make the difference.